My friends, it's time again for us to share our experience and ask questions. The topic this week is awakening in a fragment of time, fragment of second. All the words from the Buddha and the patriarchs are just a mean for us to go back to our Buddha nature. We may practice for a long time, but awakening is just in a fragment of second. So the goal for all practitioners is to be awakened from the dream that you've been through your whole life. So in order to explain about the awakening, the Buddha and the patriarch explain using words, explain the state of mind when you awaken, when you be in charge of your own life. So in order to do so, you have to do the practice, asking questions and raising doubts. The doubt will lead you to awakening. So Trung Phong, Zen master, is always teaching that you go into the practice, you always practice. You're using the doubt in your practice until you reach the awakening. You practice for your whole life, but the awakening is just in the fragment of a second. All words or all means, all the knowledge, all the understanding are just the mean to go back to your practice until you reach your own Buddha nature. Just like when you ask questions before the heaven and the earth come to existence, what was I? We ask the questions clearly and slowly. So when you have the doubt, there's no dualistic state of mind. There's no subject or object when you have doubt. So when you have doubt, you detach yourself from all the thinking, all the state of mind that created by your mind, all the realms created by your mind. You will detach yourself from all those by using the questions that you ask, the doubt that arises, and that doubt will put the mean for you to sweep up all those thoughts arising in your mind. That's the only way that can help you to go back to your Buddha nature. So in Pháp Hoa Sutra, the Buddha have taught us the way to open the door, to see the way, and to walk toward your goal, which is the Buddha nature. So all the sutra taught by the Buddha are just the meaning, the mean, are just the mean for you to practice, go back to your practice, to encourage you to go back to the practice, and to motivate you to go back to the practice until you reach the Buddha nature. And that is the meanings that the Buddha wants you to do by using the words. It's the same thing the patriarch have taught. They're using words to encourage, to motivate the practitioner to go back to the practice. They don't want you to attach yourself to all these words, but go back to your practice and experience your own mind, experience and understand your own mind. And by doing the practice, asking the questions and raising doubt, it will help you to go back to your Buddha nature. So using the words as the reminder to go back to your practice, and only the practice can help you to go back to your own Buddha nature. So if you have any questions now or want to share your own experience, please raise your hand and the host will unmute you for asking questions. Miss Kim In. So she want to ask, when we're practicing, we always have to ask questions when you're having problem. So when you're asking questions and the answer, if it's helping you, it's a valuable lesson for you to go back to the practice. So when I'm asking questions and I have a good answer from the master, I go back to my practice and use that just like a motivation for me to go on in my practicing. So could you please give me some encouraged words to go back to my practice and continue going on our right path. When you're asking questions, the ultimate goal is the Buddha nature. In order to do so, you have to detach yourself from other thinking. It's not just asking one question or several questions are the right way. It's just asking questions when you're having problem to motivate you to go back to practice so you can detach yourself from all those thinking, all the questions. So in the Buddha natures, the Buddha taught us to follow the Dharma, not the person who teaching the Dharma. Follow the meaning, not the knowledge. Follow the right view of the guideline, not so you can go back to your practice, so you can be in charge of your own life, of your own thinking. You can control or in charge of your own mind. So there's many stories about the Buddha times. There are two brothers. One is very clever and one is very idiot. They both came to the Buddha to learn the Dharma. The clever brother is learning the Dharma really fast, but the idiot one is really sad because he couldn't learn anything. He cannot memorize anything, even one verse in a poem. So he really sad because nobody wanted to teach him anything. The Buddha knew his situations and he's asking him why you so sad. And the idiot brother is telling Buddha his situation, that no one to teach him because he couldn't remember anything. He cannot memorize even a verse in a poem. So the Buddha asked him that would he like to learn the way to practice? So he's very happy that the Buddha and asked the Buddha to teach him the way. So the Buddha asked him, do you know how to use the broom? He said, yes. So go ahead and use the broom. And when you doing the job, you just say, strip up the dirt and clean up the mind. So he just doing his job of sweeping up and chanting that verse, strip up the dirt and clean up the mind. And finally, he's reached his awakening. So just the practice that he stick to, and eventually he got awakened from his practicing. Another story is a story of a Hung Zen master. Before he being awakened, he was into the books and the knowledge too much, but he couldn't reach awakened state of mind. So Conciousness is his Dharma brother, asking him questions. So before your parents were born, what were you? It's just a question like that, and Hung couldn't answer. He came back to all the books and the knowledge and searched for the answer. He couldn't find anything. So he came to Conciousness, his Dharma brother, and tried to ask him to tell him the truth. And Conciousness told him that I don't want to tell you the truth. You have to do it yourself. You have to go back to the practice and do it yourself. If I tell you the truth now, you will scold me later on. So Hung came to he left the monastery and went to a place up Chung Buksu, another awakened Zen master place, and doing this. He said that if he couldn't reach enlightenment, he won't go back. So when he doing his job and he pick up a piece of rock and throw it into a bamboo, the sound make him awakened. But that is a story of Hung Zen master when he gets awakened. Conciousness, his Dharma brother, have used a mean to encourage him to go back to the practice. And because of that, he created the doubt for Hung. And Hung using that doubt, always doing that, thinking about that questions, and the doubt have helped him to go back. So our practice is the same. You have to raise the questions and let the doubt sweep away all of your thinking in your mind. So is that understandable? Yes, it is. Timothy will continue to ask questions. She heard a practitioner from when sharing a practice. When you have a right practice with a right doubt, you will destroy all the illusions mind. Could you repeat the questions? We couldn't hear her very clearly. She heard a practitioner sharing her way of practice. When you had doubt, the right doubt, will sweep away all those illusions mind created in your head. Is that true? Could you please give us some words on this? So when the Buddha and the patriarch talk about in their sutra or their books, they talking only about the practice. They're not talking about the knowledge. They gave you the guideline, just like they're showing you the way to do certain things, just like Hooven Zen Master showing us the way to practice, but just like making tofu. You must have enough ingredients or the tools in order to make tofu. With all those ingredients and other tools, eventually you will, when you start making the tofu, you might be failed for a few times at first, but eventually you will be able to make tofu, good tofu. It's the same thing here. When you practice, you start a practice. Buddha, the patriarch of Zen master, show you the guideline, which is the ingredients, with all those explaining with all those difficulties, all the good and the bad things about the practicing clearly to you. And eventually you still have to go back to practice. You don't just understand the guidelines of the words from the Buddha, the patriarch, or the Zen master. You just need to go back to the practice so you can experience the real meaning after those words, the real meanings of the practice. So another example is when you're not practicing, it's just like a person who are sick of the viruses. So the viruses can evade everything and make you sick, every organs in the body and make you sick. So now when you go to the doctor again gonna give you medications. Medication will fight against the virus. So you have to take the medications regularly and with the right dose that will help you to fight against the virus. So now, same thing when you go to a Zen master. He will explain about everything so you can go to your practice using all the words to show you the guideline and motivate you to do the practice. The practice, the doubt, is just like the medications for you to fight against all those thoughts arising in your mind, all those illusions created by your mind, all those dualistic state of mind, all those subject, object created by your mind. The doubt will strip away all those for you, and that's a great medication. You have to go back to your practice so you don't attach yourself to all the thinking. It's our time now, so see you